Steve Soderbergh is here. At age 26, he was the youngest ever to win the grand prize at the 1989 Cannes Film Festival, younger than Robert Altman and Federico and then Fellini, all previous winners. His directorial debut, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, turned on critics and audiences alike, and film offers came from Robert Redford and Sidney Pollack. His current film, Kafka, opening January 24th, is as different from his first pictures you can get, and we're pleased to have him join us now to talk about his latest movie. Welcome.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you. When I said to you, do you mind if I take a little bit of your time, you said, you know, you were as interested in this story.
I sure am.
Yeah. You must have been, when we last talked, you were celebrating the sense that Sex, Lies, and Videotape was received so well. And at that time, you didn't know what you were going to do. We talked about the notion that Redford and Pollack and all these other people were calling you up, people who had never known of you before, but had seen the film and had seen the reaction. Either they'd seen it, I guess, maybe where did they first see it? Where did the first breakthrough come?
When it was, after we were in the United States, what was then called the United States Film Festival in Park City, Utah, in January of '89, the film was shown in Hollywood, first to seek distribution, and secondly to hopefully get the interest of people who might be interested in giving me another film to make. So all those people saw the film in the spring of '89 before it had gone to Cannes even.
And after that kind of success, people come and they say, what are you going to do now? And how do you choose this film as the one to do now?
Well, initially I was going to do a film called The Last Ship, which was about a naval destroyer that survives World War III.
This was Sidney Pollack, right?
Yes, yeah. Right. And fortunately, for a lot of reasons, I couldn't crack it, and I set it aside. And now, as it turns out, it's probably an irrelevant film to make, whether that's right or not, that we aren't thinking about nuclear holocaust. Yeah. I immediately turned to Kafka, which is something I'd wanted to do since I first read it in 1985.
What was it about it that made you want to do it?
Well, I'd been interested in the ideas that Kafka wrote about, but the great thing about the script was it wasn't an exam. You know what I mean? It wasn't highfalutin in any way. It was a mystery thriller that happened to have a protagonist named Kafka, and it was exciting. It was accessible. It was something anybody could enjoy.
Was Jeremy Irons the obvious choice for you?
For me, he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a story that he actually had walked in and saw Sex, Lies, and Videotape and walked out and said to his wife, I want to work with that guy.
Yeah, well, he didn't tell me that yes. When I called him or when we negotiated, but he was my first choice, and I would have seriously rethought the project had he said no.
Really?
Yeah.
It amazes me that directors settle on Jim, what's his name, who directed Broadcast News?
Jim Brooks.
Jim Brooks said to me, if Bill Hurt was not available to do that film, I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, it's like directors occasionally will see an actor that is so right for a film they want to do that they don't. Well, casting makes that much difference?
It can. I mean, when you're making a film, you're trying to orchestrate a happy accident and collision of so many elements that when you begin to feel that those elements aren't even quite right, you get very nervous, you get very insecure, and so at least it's a way of hedging your bet and feeling like I've got a shot at making a good movie.
Yeah. Did you feel some pressure to do it? Did you feel some sense, some pressure because everybody was going to hold you to a certain level, and a lot of people were standing there ready to say, I knew it was a fluke, I knew he didn't have that much talent?
I knew it was a fluke, so I didn't feel that pressure.
Did you really? Did you feel in a sense, I better get a hit this time or else they're going to think
No, not at all. I felt like Sex Lies was overpraised, and I knew that was going to come around at some point.
Yeah.
But I'd have felt more...
But you also felt like it was a good film and you could do it again because you...
Well, I'd have felt more pressure, frankly, if it had been a flop, and I'd be faced with, do I have a career at all?
Yeah.
So it could have been worse.
You still edit your own films?
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
It's the best part. I think it's where film is really an art form. You are literally you're sculpting now. You have all the elements, you have the performances, the images, the sound, the music, and you are putting it together, and it's exciting.
And But you couldn't do that. I mean, you don't physically edit it, do you?
In both instances, Sex Lies and Kafka, the film was transferred, in the case of Sex Lies, to tape, and in the case of Kafka, to Laserdisc. And I cut it that way, and the film is later conformed.
And then you give that to later.
There's an assistant editor who conforms the actual film.
Yeah. So you can edit it on tape and then with machines
electronically
and do what you want to do. And you've recorded. Oh, you transfer all your rushes onto that. Yeah. Do you know what's next?
It's going to be one of two things. I know everybody expects a sports comedy from me, so I'm not going to disappoint them. A film.
I'm not sure why they expect it, but
well, you know, it's a logical step after Kafka. It's a film set in the 20s about the early days of professional football, or a film based on a novel called King of the Hill about a young boy growing up in Missouri. Right.
We'll be right back. Let me take this break. Stay with us. We're back with Steve Soderbergh, who is the director of Kafka. Before we leave this particular film and talk about a lot of other things, I want you to see a clip. Set it up for me. What am I going to see? There's
a scene where Jeremy Irons, who plays Kafka, is advised that he has to work late, and we find out why.
Here it is. Roll tape. Jeremy Irons in Kafka, directed by Steve Soderbergh. First of all, I mean, we all notice it's black and white.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Something you wanted to do, or did this film just had to be in black and white?
I think anybody that read the script and felt that the images conjured were black and white. 1919, Eastern Europe, noir, mystery, thriller. The issue was more, should we shoot any of it in color, which we did.
You shot some of it in color.
Yeah.
Is it the film you wanted to make?
Yeah, it is, and I accept full responsibility. I had complete control over the film, and so it's different than the film I probably imagined when I first read the script, but that doesn't mean it's either better or worse. It's just different.
Is this Barry Levinson's company that you made?
Barry Levinson's company,
Baltimore
Pictures, right? I was approached by two colleagues of Barry's, Mark Johnson and Stuart Kornfeld, who asked, "You have anything you want to do we could be involved with?" And I said, "What about Kafka?" So it turned out Stuart Kornfeld knew Lem Dobbs, the screenwriter, and it came together very quickly.
Because Sex, Lies, and Videotape was very much your life, your experiences. I mean, you had poured everything you had thought about, in a sense, into that script. You wrote it in 9 or 10 days, but it was some very intimate and emotional experiences of your own in there. So you're directing, in a sense, something you've lived with. Here, this is quite different.
It is. It has similar concerns, at least on one level. Sex, Lies is concerned with the truth on a very personal level, and Kafka is concerned with finding the truth on a broader societal level. And so, in a sense, it's a much expanded version of similar concerns.
Why do you live in Virginia rather than Hollywood?
Gosh, why not?
That's a better question. You live in Charlottesville on a farm.
About 20 minutes north of Charlottesville, right. And it clears your head. I mean, but there's no reason not to live in Hollywood. It's just that you prefer living. Phone, fax, and FedEx. You know, you can
take care of
live
everything.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Wait, do you need time off, or do you immediately, as soon as you wrap a picture, go right into to begin to think about the other one? Or as soon as you finish editing it, not wrapping it?
If I can, I like to move quickly. There's something to keeping a momentum going, and I'm at an age where I have energy to burn, and I want to use it.
How old are you now? 28?
I'll be 29 tomorrow. Or actually, I'm 29 right now.
Oh, today is your birthday as we speak?
14th.
The 14th is your birthday.
In 2 minutes, I guess. Thanks.
I mean, how are you going to celebrate?
God, that's a good sleep, I guess.
When you select actors, male or female, how do you go about that process? Do you look at their films, which is the obvious thing, or what do you do?
You do part of that. In the case of Kafka, it's almost entirely populated by well-known actors who I had always wanted to work with.
Alex Guinness, for one.
Alec Guinness, yeah, Ian Holm, Jeremy. That's great. It's also exciting in the case of Sex Lies to kind of use people who haven't had the opportunity to break through.
And is it working with them the same? Or
it actually was. They were, to a person, extremely professional, very bright, very funny. That part of it wasn't really hard.
But you weren't intimidated by Alex Guinness. I mean, you didn't think about Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Well, I thought about it.
Yes.
He fortunately is very adept at putting you at ease and tells you very quickly to stop calling him Sir Alec.
Yeah, right.
And he was great. He was really great.
Do you, and when you direct them, I mean, do you go up to him and say, what? I mean, would you have to say, what would you say to him?
Yeah, I sent somebody else to ask them.
Do we do it one more time?
No, that's what I mean in the sense that Alec comes onto the set and he wants to be directed. He wants to know where he fits in the movie, what to do. And
it's your movie, and tell me how I can make it good.
Yeah, and it makes my job very easy, and clearly it would be, he's done everything, he's been everywhere. It would be very easy for him to come in and say, kid, you sit back and I'll take care of it.
Who is your, I'm out of time, your directing hero? Do you have one?
Howard Hawks.
Is it really Howard Hawks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made a lot of great films, a lot of different films, which I would like to do.
Yeah. Pleasure to have you back.
I'm glad to be
Come
here.
back. Steve Soderbergh. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night.